Hi, this is my review of Conan the Thief, a sourcebook for the Robert E. Howard's Conan role-playing game. This is a complete toolkit to customize any campaign in the Robert E. Howard's Conan role-playing game to represent those archetypes that you would expect to find in Conan literature concerning sword and sorcery, scoundrels, thieves, rogues, etc. So you have many different things, many different tools that you can use to create thief characters. You have an entire Gazetteer. You have many methods and tables to generate events, encounters, many things. Let's talk about the quality of the PDF. When it comes to the negatives, I only have a couple of criticisms. I did find some typos here and there, but what is perhaps my major criticism, and this is probably a minor thing for some, is that while I love the artwork of the cover, I don't like this part of the illustration right here. This is supposed to be Prince Murillo, you know, because of the this epic encounter of Conan fighting against Thak. But here Prince Murillo seems so effeminate. Just look at those leggings. It feels kind of like the illustrator was drawing a woman and then they told him, no, it's supposed to feature Prince Murillo, and he just added like a mustache. So the character really looks too feminine to be Prince Murillo, in my opinion, because this is obviously that scene. And just take a look at this illustration of Prince Murillo. So I'm somewhat displeased with that part of the artwork, although if we focus entirely on the fight of Conan against Thak, that looks pretty awesome. But the rest of the quality is excellent. Everything is well organized and written. You have a hyperlinked index. The document is fully bookmarked. You have some really good illustrations over the entire document. So the quality overall is great despite my criticisms. Now let's talk about the content. First, you have an introduction to how you can use this source book, detailing every section of it, so it's going to be quite easy. And I really like the text boxes giving you further tips and how to handle different situations, and some of them are just there for flavor. So overall, the document is really nice in that regard. Now let's talk about how you can create a sword and sorcery thief using this source book. So you have information on how to create thief case and stories, because here during these steps of character creation you have different outlaw stories, because for example maybe your rogue type of character is a victim of justice, so he has the trait of branded, or maybe his nobility in all but name, so he has the trait of isolated. And you have information on how to handle ancient thief bloodlines, that is, if your character has that trait or characteristic described in the core rulebook. Here you have information on how to handle this background related to Brithunia, Corinthian, Media, and so on. So you have a description of all these elements, and then we have thief archetypes. Now, something that I really love about the 2D20 system are archetypes, and here they are pretty self-explanatory. You have the assassin, the bloody right hand, you have the fence. And what I like of these archetypes is that, for example, if you want to have like a party of adventurers consisting only of scoundrels or rogues, that doesn't mean that they're all going to be focused on taking stuff that other people want to keep safe from them, or that they have to specialize completely in infiltration and stealth. Because, for example, in the case of the bloody right hand, this character is really good at combat when compared to other archetypes. And if you wanted to kill someone, well, you use the assassin archetype. So as I was telling you, you have the bloody right hand, you have the fence, you have the highwayman, you have the master thief, and all of these characters can be used to further or raise the odds of success during adventures. So if you're exploring some strange crypt or catacombs, you could use the relic hunter perhaps, or maybe you're playing things in a more diplomatic or perhaps even deceitful way. Maybe it would be a great idea to have a spy in the group. And then you have details on thief educations. So for example, maybe you were educated to be a burglar, or maybe a rustler or a lock breaker, or maybe you're just a thug, and you have a different mandatory and elective skills related to that, and then you have talents and equipment. More details on thief war stories and heists of note. Maybe your thief robbed a merchant caravan and you get a bonus to animal handling and persuade. Or maybe you survived a horrible gang war, so you get a bonus to parry and resolve. And you have descriptions of a lot of those sections. You also have thief names related to their homeland, to Brithunia, Nemedia, because the Gazetteer in this sourcebook features all of those countries. And then you have thieves kits, that is tools that you can use to be more successful at a particular roguish feat or endeavor. So you have things such as marbles, tripwires, grease pots, etc. You also have some pretty cool hidden weapons, the typical boot blade, and you have needle rings, perfect to apply poison perhaps, the push dagger. And then you have information how to create new tricks of the trade, descriptions of all of those new weapons, etc. Now let's talk about the Gazetteer. I think that the lands described in this sourcebook are really exciting in the sense that they feel that they combine ancient kingdoms or decadent glory with modern pragmatism and even crime. So for example, we have information on Zamora. You have all the different cities of Zamora, like Zamora the Accursed, and many of these places feel like they have been victimized by war and raids and sacking and conquests. Because for example, in the case of Zamora, throughout the years, Zamora has been conquered by different cultures. So the current Zamora feels like a bit like an amalgamation of such conquests, and you have information on different marketplaces, the temple district, and the famous Tower of the Elephant. If you want to have adventures featuring that tower, as described in that famous Conan story, you have all the details to handle such adventures, because many of you know what happened in the Tower of the Elephant. So you could be thinking, oh no, but Conan already entered that place. But here you have tips that will easily let you proceed despite some non-player characters having died, or perhaps you're adventuring in that tower before the events in that story took place. And this applies to all of those famous or iconic places in the different lands of the Conan role-playing game. You have tips on how to customize your campaign around what Conan did or what Conan did not do yet. Or maybe you want to handle things as sort of like a parallel timeline of sorts, or alternate story. So you have details on Noble's Street and the Temple of the Spider God. You have information on the Black Hand Safe House. And when it comes to all of these guilds and organizations, you have information to use them as perhaps patrons. Maybe you want to belong to such organization, or as enemies, or as momentary allies. Although, for example, in the case of the Black Hand, once you get into the Black Hand, it's impossible to get out. And then you have information on Yesud, which is basically like a library that has been heavily fortified. So if you want to find some ancient tome or information regarding treasures and the ancient kingdoms, you will have to enter Yesud. And it's funny because there are pilgrims and priests and cult members traveling around Yesud, and they will actually protect your characters if you get attacked by bandits, but that's just because they want you to join their cults, or perhaps to serve as a sacrifice. And then you have information on Corinthia, its background and history, and its major cities. Now, Corinthia feels quite corrupted. That is, you have information on Magyar, the Red City, and here you have a clashing of two main forces, the current corrupt government and the nationalists, So you can choose to side with any of those factions, and so you have all the information to use them as allies or enemies. You also have information on the Temple of Anu. Now all of these places of worship and mysticism, you can use them as adventure sites or to perform different thief related heists, so that's really nice. You also have details on the House of Nabonidus, so if you want to fight against Thak or try to outsmart Nabonidus, you have all the information here. As I was telling you, the different description of the floors and the dungeon level. So if you think, no, but Conan already visited that place, no problem. Here you have all the details to build your adventures around that. Maybe you're going to handle this place as if it was a haunted house sort of place or haunted mansion. And those creatures that Conan killed in the story now haunt the place. So you have information on Smoke Street, Merchant's Quarter. If you want to have some shady negotiations or encounters, you can visit any of those places. You just have to be careful. You also have information on Crotoa, the Garrison District, the Governor's Mansion. Something that I also like of many different prisons and mansions of importance is that there are sometimes like a network of tunnels below them. So if you want to have like a dungeon delve type of adventure or dungeon crawl, these places have you covered. And then you have Nemedia. You have details on the Nemedian history and background. Now, Nemedia, when compared to other places, it feels a bit more splendorous because you see a bit more peace and diplomacy being employed here. And when it comes to civilization, they seem to have progressed a lot more when compared to other places that feel a bit more barbaric. Perhaps it's because Nemedia has been built upon some of the most important ruins and ancient sites. So they have taken advantage of many of the things that they have unearthed there. In fact, you could perhaps get some work with the local priests and temples, the Temple of Mitra, of course, and get hired to unearth some relics and look for ancient scrolls, anything related to the history of the land. Although some places here are quite terrible. Some things have been said to have been inherited from the Acheronian barbarians. Like, for example, you have the arena where blood sports are carried out. You can find some other forms of entertainment, like, for example, gambling and some other games that are less violent. But here you cannot ignore the presence of these blood sports. Perhaps you want to have like a gladiator type of campaign here. And then you have information on the Temple of Ibis, the Royal Vineyards, because some of the best wine is found here. Maybe you want to steal it, or maybe you want to purchase it by haggling. And then you have information on Brithunia. Now Brithunia is composed of 4 major kingdoms, and you have the information of how they get along with each other, because they are quite different. In the case of Karo, honor and oaths and a certain diplomacy are valued above all other things, although they can be sometimes too naive. And then you have the Kingdom of Goric, where they are quite combative, hungry for battle. And then you have Wolfstan, and this kingdom values intelligence, cunning, and wit above all. And then you have Hilder, which is a kingdom of commerce and diplomacy. So as you can probably guess, some kingdoms get along better with other kingdoms. Some are open enemies, some are just subtle enemies that want to stab each other in the back when possible. And you have a table to generate Brythunian settlements. You can generate roads or the type of building. Maybe, for example, maybe you're going through a crossroads and you find this inn that has a unique feature. Perhaps it has a very ancient fountain just in front of it or to the side. And maybe you find people there that are quite curious or cautious. And maybe most of them are traders or criminals. So you can build some pretty interesting sites around that. And then you have a chapter detailing events. Here you're going to have almost everything that you need to add more life to the setting. You have information on personal events, rivalries, targets for murder or for kidnappings. You have different city and town related events like gang wars or watch crackdowns. You have kingdom events and everything related to wars and rumors of war. So here you're going to find information and opportunities to handle business related to thieves and rogues and scoundrels. Some of these events could actually be obstacles for any type of objective that you want to reach. Or some of them, as I was telling you, they could be quite lucrative for a thief type character. You also have unnatural events related to cults, power behind the thrones. And then you have information how to combine events. You also have information on honor among thieves, different codes of conduct, different deities that thieves worship, different cults. Many information related to cults. They're going to be quite useful to get your thieves in or out of trouble. You also have, for example, some interesting magic related things like Jesuit's gifts, the X of the spider. And then you have information on a new talent, the tools of the dead. When you use necromantic related tools to be more successful, you basically get a bonus to momentum in different thievery tests. And you also have a chapter detailing encounters. Now this is an entire gallery of non-player characters that you can use as enemies or allies. So you have the stats and information for assassins, guild thieves, inquisitors, nationalists. You have some more supernatural related creature like giant skeletons, and you're going to find some famous non-player characters here as well, like Calian Publico, and the stats for Thak. This is awesome, although I must warn you that Thak is really powerful. If you have enough Doom points, you can easily kill 2 or 3 characters, so you have to keep that in mind. You also have stats for Murillo and Servius of Aquilonia as well. Many important non-player characters that you don't feel like you're fighting only or dealing with cannon fodder. And for any type of situation, as I was telling you, if you want something more related to crypt exploration, you have spider horrors and some interesting nemesis as well. And then you have a chapter detailing the early life of Conan. This is going to be quite exciting for those of us that are interested in gaining gaining knowledge of everything related to Conan's life and deeds. So here you have an organized timeline of what Conan experienced, because this source book is known as called Conan the Thief. This is when Conan was pretty young. So here you have information on when he came out of the savage north, and when he entered the Tower of the Elephant, his adventures related to the Hall of the Dead, the God in the Bowl, etc. You even have stats for Conan as a thief. So you want to have Conan as an enemy or ally, this is excellent. And then you have a chapter called The Way of Thieves. Everything related to further customize or focus your thief-related campaigns. Setting some conditions, because during different heists and jobs, there could be some things that could present an obstacle or perhaps even an advantage, like for example maybe there's a thunderstorm, so you could actually get some bonuses related to stealth, but there are also some complications related to lightning strikes, or maybe there are fierce winds or high humidity, etc. So this is a great way to make each heist feel fresh and unique. You have information on how to join guilds. Maybe you want to create your own guilds, everything related to renown, the guild treatment, and expected tithes. So you have information to basically enter or fight against any guild in any of the countries and cities described in the Gazetteer. And you also have a Hyborian H heist generator. So here you're going to generate non-player characters. Maybe there's a jealous politician from Shem, and he hires you to steal some important documents that are actually hidden in a cache in the crypts below a city. So, and maybe you have to get to that area, you have to get some information from a warehouse or storage near a sacred site. So that way you can build all sorts of clues and sites with many different wrinkles. Maybe there are many traps that are poisoned, or maybe there are beasts or monsters guarding different treasures. And then you have information on the rewards. Maybe you can fence the goods and you get different bonuses to the gold that you obtain. Maybe the thing that you steal is quite rare, or the payment that you receive is quite unique. You also have an example to generate an entire heist. And at the end of the document, you have Heroes of the Age. Now, this is basically a collection of characters created by the backers for the Robert E. Howard's Conan role-playing game. And so here you can use any of these characters however you like in your campaigns and adventures. Now, let me tell you what I think of Conan the Thief. This is an excellent sourcebook because even if you don't want to have thief-focused campaigns, all of the information here is going to be useful perhaps for mercenary campaigns. Maybe you want to play as guards or bodyguards, or as escorts, or as soldiers. And here, because of all the information in the city, war-related events, the different political houses, the marketplaces, you can come up with so many adventures around these places surrounding these particular regions that feel so very well suited for scoundrel-related campaigns. But of course, if you want like a group composed of cutthroats, this is the sourcebook for you. So I definitely recommend that you get Conan the Thief. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.